Folks, in the strangest turn yet in the corporate transparency saga, the BOI report is dead and buried, at least for right now. In major headlines recently, the U.S. Treasury announced that the Corporate Transparency Act, which required LLCs and corporations to file the Beneficial Ownership Information, or BOI report, will no longer be enforced. Hey, you heard that right. The Treasury Department said outright, we will not enforce it, we will not assess penalties. You do not have to file it at all. And if that wasn't enough, Trump came out on Truth Social and flat out called the original requirement burdensome on small businesses. He labeled it a bad idea and even tied it directly to Biden's previous administration. But here's the key takeaway from his statement. He said that they're going to limit the scope of this law. And as of March 2nd, the Treasury Department has significantly scaled back the enforcement of the Corporate Transparency Act to focus on a new genre of businesses. But let's back this up for a second. This was a law originally passed by Congress requiring around 90% of LLC and corporation owners to file reports disclosing anyone who owned 25% or more of the company, anyone who has substantial control over the business. FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, then set up an online filing system at FINCEN.gov requiring businesses to submit this information. It was a brand new requirement and a huge shift in LLC and incorporation laws. Then the courts got involved, and that's when things got really messy. For months, the courts have been flip-flopping on whether or not this law is constitutional. No one really knew where Trump's administration would land on this until now. A few weeks ago, after saying that the BOI was being put to rest, the Supreme Court suddenly woke up and it seemed like businesses were going to be forced to file the BOI report once and for all. We even released another video basically saying, all right, there's no more delaying this, it's valid now. And then, right at the end of February, the Treasury Department extended the final deadline all the way out to March 21st, signaling that they were actually letting this requirement finally stand. But fast forward to March 2nd, and now they're saying, forget about the March 21st deadline, you don't have to file it, we're not enforcing it anymore. So what exactly changed? Well, the Treasury Department said that they're moving into final rulemaking and want to limit the scope of the Corporate Transparency Act. Their plan now? Only require foreign companies to report ownership information. So if you're a US-based business, you're not going to have to worry about it. So ultimately, that feels like a victory for US businesses, right? Well, here's where things get kind of tricky. The law is still technically on the books. That means the Treasury Department says that they won't enforce it, but there's still an active case in the US Supreme Court. Plus, Congress could still get involved. So, do you need to file it? Right now, no. The Treasury has explicitly said they will not enforce penalties. So what happens if you already filed? Well, I know some of you already went through the hassle of filing. I mean, I did too. Our friends over at Propel filed hundreds for our clients because at the time it was required. But now, well, if you already filed, there's really nothing left to do. Your information's in the system, and there's no way of really getting it out right now. Now, for that final big court battle, the biggest case is still the Texas Top Cop Shop case, which made its way through the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals and is now in front of the Supreme Court. A hearing is set for this very month, and the court's decision will likely come later in the fall. If the Supreme Court rules that the law is unconstitutional, then it's over. That's the final nail in the coffin. If they uphold the law, well, then things are going to get complicated again because the Treasury has already said that they're not going to enforce it. Now, on top of all of that, there's a bill in Congress right now aimed at eliminating the BOI requirement altogether. The House already passed a bill to push the deadline to file to January 1st of 2026, but a second bill called the Repealing Big Brother Overreach Act could wipe the law out entirely. Now, given Trump's stance and the fact that even House Democrats supported delaying the deadline, there's a good chance that this bill will ultimately pass. And if it does, then that's it. The BOI is basically just done. Additionally, just one day before the Treasury killed the BOI enforcement, Elon Musk responded to a tweet from Terrence Williams asking him to look into this law. Musk replied, well, I'll look into it. And then 24 hours later, the Treasury said they wouldn't enforce the rule. Coincidence? Well, maybe. But it's hard to ignore the timing. And then Trump himself came out the next day praising the U.S. Treasury's decision. So to sum up, if you're setting up an LLC or a corporation soon, do not file the BOI report. If you already filed, well, there's nothing else to do now. Your info is private and allegedly secure. If you're worried about future enforcement, well, continue to wait it out for now. The Supreme Court and Congress could officially kill it at any time. So that wraps up our 6th video on this. It's been an absolute roller coaster for business owners, and we appreciate you sticking with us as we continue to try and sort out this mess. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to our channel to stay up to date on all things business finance. And for everybody here, I'm Zach Ritchie. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.